The library was a test to see if I could even get into the system. I've since set greater goals. For instance, step 2, build malware and prepare an attack. At my fingertips, the 0 days wrapped in code like a Christmas present then becomes an exploit. The programmatic expression of my will. I live for this shit.
Hey all, welcome to the first devlog about strategic cyberspace operations, a turn-based abstract strategy game built in Godot. Wait, how do you pronounce that?
Godot.
Godot's waiting for Godot.
No Man's Land and Waiting for Godot.
I've taught myself a little bit of ethical hacking. Shout out to Try Hack Me and Hack the Bucks. And I'm a huge fan of games like Uplink, Hacknet, and Midnight Protocol. Totally unrealistic hacking games that capture the aesthetic of cinematic hacking and the excitement of doing something illicit without the boring bits. I also really like stealth games where I get to sneak around and steal stuff, so there's probably something psychological to explore here. Anyways, however, I wanted to create another type of game, not simulating an actual hacker at the keyboard, but capturing the spirit of nation-state cyber warfare. So I wanted strategic cyberspace operations to involve hidden information. The map and enemy activity isn't fully visible to either player, and force players to weigh offense against defense, and stealth and deception against speed. I want to force players to constantly be juggling game theory and theory of mind in their head. I came up with the idea of a hexagonal grid of hackable nodes. I don't know why military games are always hex-based, but there you go. Divided into blue space, or friendly networks you own, gray space, or neutral networks often owned by private companies or neutral nations, and red space, networks owned and controlled by the adversary. I originally planned to have the game be played simultaneously, with each player submitting turns at the same time, and then the game adjudicating who won each turn, but found that developing the system to adjudicate actions, especially when players were competing over the same node, would have introduced too many new gameplay ideas and just complicated the whole thing. Instead, I went with a turn-based approach. Each turn you get 3 actions, which are broadly divided into the categories of defense, reconnaissance, exploitation, or attack. I also originally thought about going with a card-based approach. I'm not sure if this was because I've been playing a lot of Slay the Spire, like a lot, but cards offer an intuitive way to randomize each player's options and also break up turns into discrete actions. However, from a thematic or diegetic or whatever perspective, I just couldn't justify why you play cards to simulate cyber activities in a computer game. Something seemed backward there. I'm still tempted to go back to the card idea, to be honest, but I think just offering a menu of options on the side makes more sense in-game and from a straightforward perspective. To keep gameplay fresh, there's different types of nodes, and the map is broadly randomized each time. Each row always contains the same types of nodes, so players can develop expertise and make educated guesses where certain nodes will be, but the specific layout always changes. I also added events that can trigger on each turn or when you hack a node, such as private cybersecurity researchers discovering and publicly exposing your operations. As the game progresses, you become more and more likely to trigger the Cyber Attacks Authorized event, which allows you and your opponent to start taking out each other's nodes. The 2 hardest parts of designing this, at least so far, was, first, designing a data structure that would easily allow a game to track the real version of the game map, as well as the versions of the game map that each player sees. Since each player can't see most nodes at the beginning, some nodes may be deceptive honeypots, and both players may be on the same node, but they shouldn't be able to see each other. It gets pretty complicated pretty fast. The second hardest part was moving this to multiplayer. Godot has a basic RPC implementation which isn't too hard on the surface, but you can't pass custom classes or structs, only Godot variants, and I had designed my game around custom classes like the network class, or structs like node data. I had to build a custom serialization for all my custom classes and structs to get them going again. How networking works, for now, is that a gateway node is responsible for establishing connection, and then each client and server has a multiplayer node, where requests are submitted to other networking peers, or received, and then passed to local functions. The next step is, well, first, squishing a lot of bugs, and then building out the event system, and then moving this to a dedicated server solution. I'm torn between some frameworks out there like Nakama and GDSync, but I think I'm going to start by rolling my own dedicated server, hosting on AWS and Azure, and just delivering some clients to my friends. I don't want to go down the path of a specific solution before I figure out, first, if my game works on their computers, and second, if it's fun. And of course, making it look pretty will be the last step, but man, does it need a makeover. So tune in next time as I put this game on the cloud, hopefully. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, comment, etc., etc. And please let me know if you have a preferred multiplayer solution for Godot, because I am totally open to suggestions. Later.